I have a sort of interesting take on the concept of manifestation. And when I say this take, I'm not sort of limiting my perspective to this take. And I'm not saying this is the only take that's possible. And I'm not saying this is what manifestation is truly and thoroughly. But I want to offer a sort of differing perspective that may allow you to implement some of the features of manifestation into your life immediately. So I view manifestation as working through us instead of outside of us. I like to sort of entertain the practice of manifestation being grounded psychologically. So let's break this down. So, manifestation, in a way, is transforming and influencing our reality and making it subject to the things that we want. And I would like to offer a little bit of a differing idea. And the main thesis of that idea can sort of be put like there is a way that manifestation works through our very own actions to attract the things that we want. So instead of maybe things being pulled together, which they can be, I'm not eliminating that sort of idea, but if that idea does hold truth, it most likely is the result of a very strong focus and a sort of very minority group that is really doing it in its full capacity. And I think what a lot of people experience as manifestation is sort of the idea that I'm talking about, and that is the reality is a system and that our actions create waves in that system that influence what we encounter in our future. So when you set things to manifest, this sort of creates the subconscious idea that what we are now doing is in an effort to achieve those things. And when that idea is given life to, our brains, then we take actions without even realizing it that attract those things that we want. And this is why it also almost always doesn't work very easily for people. And that's because they keep waiting and waiting and waiting, right? But if someone says, and this is why I very like a lot of Neville Goddard's sort of ideas, is that when we take the manifestation and place it inside of us, and we say, okay, things are going to manifest because the actions, the words, and everything that I do, the energy that I radiate, everything that I am is a magnet to those things. It's not that something outside of me is pushing the things towards me. It's that I am pulling the things towards me with my actions and my words. And that itself, those things influence reality. How can they not? How can your actions and words not affect reality, even from the most grounded, practical perspective? How can your actions and words not affect reality? Of course they do. And whether you want to argue that's happening at a literal metaphysical sense, or you want to argue that we're affecting reality from a sort of subconscious psychological bias sense, either way, results are results. And when we look at ourselves as the sort of sign we've been looking for, when we look at the realization, right? When we look at the realization that at any moment we can start acting like a different person and we see, wow, okay, the realization was the sign. The invite to change our state of being was the sign. It wasn't that the universe was, and it could be, but not necessarily that the universe was coordinating, but rather that my very realization, my very awareness, my very consciousness is affecting the system of reality. That everything is beginning within myself and it's being projected outward instead of something projecting things towards me. Does that make sense? So through us, when we are the sort of sign, when we become the very signal we've been looking for, when the person we look up to is now just the person that we don't allow the waiting to act as a barrier. And I've encountered some pretty awesome, weird, and very interesting things synchronistically when I'm doing things that feel aligned. And they'll be very random. And that's why I urge and encourage you guys to not necessarily wait for the universe to do things for you. Because oftentimes, what I find is that the system of reality communicates in patterns, but it doesn't always make sense. It maybe either it doesn't make sense to our brains, either we can't understand what's being communicated, but I don't think anything is necessarily being communicated at all, rather than a system reflecting. And you could bring this back to the idea of whatever your worldview, whatever your theological and philosophical worldview. But I do believe in a greater orchestration. I do. But when we're looking to manifest, I think the more that we wait for things to arrive, I think the more sort of frustration and misery we're going to have. We can just trust that those things are going to happen because we are now the type of person, after realizing that we are now the type of person that is going to make those things happen. Whether it comes in the form we expected or not, the very nature of who we are now, facing our fears, leaving our comfort zone, expanding our limitations, embodying the person we always wanted to be, that state of being is going to ensure that reality changes and that our reality is influenced. There's more also to manifestation than just a psychological principle. Obviously, we have a sort of metaphysical understanding of it as well. And this is another thing I would encourage. Let the metaphysical side of things surprise you. Don't jump to conclusions with how the universe works and how the laws of the universe and manifestation are orchestrated. Don't necessarily bother with trying to understand how it works. Let it surprise you. Tell the universe, say, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to be this state of being. I'm going to do everything I can to become emotionally free, confident, and breaking past those limitations. And then say, the rest I'll let be a surprise. I'm going to do everything in my power to influence my reality and change my life. But I'm completely open to unexpected surprises. And I encourage them and I welcome them. And this is where things get really interesting. Because you're no longer placing a sense of need on outer reality to do something for you. But you're saying, I invite you to the party. And invitations are almost always better received than demands. Your open-mindedness should be towards the world. And your conviction, your relentlessness, your perseverance should be aimed towards yourself. Because we structure our lives, we change our lives, we reprogram our minds through dedicated conscious action. But when we bring that sort of control onto the world and out into external reality, we're met with friction. So we ditch that sort of attitude at the doorstep when we start looking to the stars. When we gaze at the sunset, we let go of that sort of deep, conscious, driven conditioning. We let go of that. That is for us. That is for our inner world. That is the direct sort of psychological leadership that we save for ourselves. But in terms of the outer world, we are like a 7-year-old looking at art for the first time. We are like a buffalo staring out into the grasslands. There's a varying difference. And when I think we could balance those two things, manifestation can stream directly in the middle.